Guys. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us on this meetup. We really appreciate for you dedicating this 1 hour, this quick, let's say, meetup, which is, we're doing those on a weekly basis. Every week, we're talking about a specific topic in order to actually, add as much value as we can for everyone that is starting his business, working on his own marketing, trying to have like a better, let's say, digital presence in this whole let's say space, right? So today our meetup we're gonna be talking more about social media reporting tools. So we're gonna see the importance of these actual tools. Why you actually need to be, let's say, following up on your numbers, following on the analytics, the insights that you have on the different platforms. So, and then we're going to identify the different metrics. What should you be looking at, right? So what are the different metrics you need to focus on? And finally, by the end of the session, I'm going to show you guys, we're going to see like a walkthrough on Facebook Insights and maybe LinkedIn if we still have time, right? So we're going to see those different platforms. What's the difference between them? What do we focus on when it comes to Facebook? What do we focus on when it comes to LinkedIn? And in general, what are the things we need to ask ourselves before we even start, right? So speaking of what are the questions we need to ask ourselves about, which are before we even looking at numbers, before we even building any social media report, I need to understand, I need to know where's my business going. So I need to start asking myself a few questions like, first of all, what are my business goals? So unless I know what am I trying to analyze over here, it's only like looking at numbers, right? So we don't only want to look at numbers, we want to understand what are we tracking. So first of all, we need to ask ourselves, what are our business goals? Then we need to look at the different channels we are analyzing. That would come even before that. So first of all, you need to identify what are those different channels that you are active on. And then based on that, you'll start preparing the different reports from a channel to another. Then the third thing, which is depending on those, let's say, different analytical tool and depending on those, let's say, different reports that you're building, what are in specific the different metrics and KPIs, the key performance indicators that you want to look at? Because again, you're going to see that when it comes to Facebook Insights, for example, or Twitter or Google or YouTube or just any other analytical tool, you have tens and hundreds of metrics and different numbers that you can look at. It will all depend on the specific metric that you want to look for that will represent your business, that will represent the conversions that's happening for you, that will represent the achievements that your business is trying to do online. All right, and we're going to see the different we're going to see the funnel when it comes to social media metrics. There's a specific funnel so that you guys will have to look for depending on the different categories. All right, so first of all, we need to know what to measure. Before we dig into the practicalities and the different metrics, I need to identify, I need to define what are those things that I'm trying to measure. And that will all go back to my business goals, as I was saying, right? So when I'm looking at my business goal, I need to think, where's my business, right? So in what industry? Am I in e-commerce? Am I in B2B? Am I an influencer on social media? Because each one of those will have a different focus. So let's say if I'm in e-commerce, obviously the main thing that I want to track is my sales. So I'm here to sell more. I'm here to sell more products online because that's my business. If I'm in B2B, obviously over here, I need to look at my leads. And what I'm trying to say over here, what is the link, or how will I be able to build or to create this link between my goals and the main things that I need to look at on Facebook, Instagram, or any of these social, so that I would say at the end that yes, I have achieved my goal, right? So each one of those I will look at them differently. So now let's look on how can we actually translate those main goals that any business could have, right, into a specific event, into a specific, let's say, metric or activity that's going to happen on the channel. So it should start with a business goal. Then this business goal will be translated, or should be translated, and we're going to do an example, to a social media goal. So I need to look at it from a different perspective on a platform, and then from that platform, whether it is something that I need to track on the post itself or on my website, so that's where it's going to be translated to a specific event, to a specific destination, maybe people going on to my website, people clicking on a post and going to my website. So as an example, when I'm talking about a business goal, let's say in that example, I'm talking about an e-commerce business right now, but it could be applied to any industry. So let's say I'm talking to a business, an e-commerce business. So obviously my main objective is to get more customers, to sell more items. So that is, I mean, nothing but normal. Then if I'm going to look at this goal and how will I be able to translate it into a social media goal? So now I need to think of what are the things that I need to look at on my page, no matter where it is. I mean, no matter what channel am I talking about, what is this thing that I need to look at on this channel? So first of all, I need to look at my fan base. Am I growing my fan base? So that's one. Number two, am I having the engagement that I want to look for? So are people engaging on my page? Then do I have, let's say, returned visitors? So are people coming over and over to my channel and engaging more and more with my content? So those are the specific social media goals. Then from those goals, I need to start looking at specific events that's happening on the channel and outside the channel. When we're talking about the channel, so I need to look at if people are visiting my Facebook shop. Is people, let's say, visiting my Instagram shop? Are they actually clicking on products to go back to my website in order to buy those? That's one. Number two, most of the time you notice that a lot of businesses, they insert and they add specific links to products, to landing pages on their websites. Usually they add those into the posts, right? So this is another thing to track when it comes to a specific event or an activity that we're talking about. So over here, I need to look at, from this awareness that I'm creating, from these fans and audience that are coming to my page, how many of them are actually converting? What is my CTR, which we're going to talk more about next. So how many of them are converting and clicking on the link from the post because they're interested and they're going to my website? So these are the kind of metrics that I need to look for if, let's say, I'm talking about an e-commerce business. All right. So now, why do we want to analyze this data, right? So what are the main things that we need to have in mind, or what could be the benefits, in other terms, of me analyzing this data, other than, let's say, I have specific goals and I need to achieve them, of course, right? So I need to analyze them because I want to understand, I want to understand my opportunities. I want to understand how to make better decisions. So how to make better decisions in terms of content, because everything that we're analyzing over here, or most of the things, it's my content calendar. So I'm trying to assess and I'm trying to take better decisions regarding the content that I'm actually posting on my channel. So is this the right content that I need to be creating? Is this the right format? So we always as well compare between different formats, between videos and images and stories and carousel, slideshows, sometimes status, sometimes we're just writing something without any creative, without any visual, and maybe sometimes people do engage. So I always have to keep an eye on those so that I can take better decisions. That's one thing. Another thing is, I need to find out, when I'm creating those reports, I need to compare channel to another, because I want to understand which channel is driving more or better businesses for myself, right? So, and not only that, even when I'm creating campaigns, especially because I'm paying money, I want to understand which campaign actually drove the best results for myself, right? Because this is where I want to invest my money. This is where I'm having the highest conversions. And this is where this is where I'm getting the highest revenue. So I need to be comparing a campaign to another, so that at the end of the day, I want to understand from where am I getting the highest revenue, so that I invest more money into that channel or platform or campaign as well. So now before we jump into the funnel, let's define some of the most metrics that are being tracked out there, right? And each one of them would represent a specific a goal or objective, which we're going to talk about next. So obviously, most of the time we track or we analyze the number of posts that were published throughout a specific month. And most of the time, just to tell you, social media reports are built on a monthly basis. So usually we try to compare month on month, because that's when we're giving a good time or a good length for our presence or for our page online, for people to engage more and more with us, so that we understand what our content is actually achieving or performing. So we compare the number of posts to understand how much did we post this month versus the other months, the net follower gain or loss. So it's very important to look at how many, let's say, how many users or people or followers did we gain this month versus how many did we actually lost. The number of likes. So again, that's a metric. I mean, if you're asking me, I wouldn't look at the likes as a main metric, but it all depends on my objective as well. So let's say, for instance, I'm trying to create awareness, or I'm trying to assess engagement. That is something that I need to look for. But maybe if I'm trying to, let's say, to look for sales, of course, that's not going to be a metric that I need to look for, because a like doesn't mean an actual sale, all right? Post reach, so to how many people my post actually reached, and that would reflect on awareness, again, which we're going to see later. Number of comments, so how much comments did I got on every single post, and that's a huge metric for me to start comparing my different content, my different pieces of content that I have, to understand with which type of content people are actually engaging. Another thing, which is the number of page views. So how many visitors did I got on my page other than my followers? So I have my followers and I have my visitors, the number of page views, the number of clicks on post links. And that is super important. And why I'm saying that, because I'm sure that 80–90% of businesses nowadays, they're relying on social media channels to drive more traffic to their website. So most of you guys, I'm sure that, most of the time I'm saying you are doing social media, or you are present on social because you want to drive traffic to your main, let's say, outlet, which is your website, your e-commerce, your landing page, whether you're in real estate, e-commerce, education, or any industry it is. So that's a very important metric to see. Are people actually interested in what we have? And are they actually clicking on the link and going to my website? So that is very important to track. Number of clicks on the link in your bio. That's another, let's say, that's another opportunity for you to get more traffic to your website with the link that you add on Instagram bio. Because obviously, let's say, I'm giving Instagram as an example. In your bio on Instagram, that's the only place where you can add a link, right? So yes, you want to track that. You want to see that when you're posting something as a regular post and you're telling people to check link in bio, are they actually clicking on it? So that's important to track. Number of story views. Nowadays, stories are one of the best performing type of posts anyway. So that is very important to see our reach. So how many people are we reaching, and how many people are actually viewing our stories? Because most of the time most of businesses, as I've noticed, are very active on stories, more than regular posts. So they publish multiple stories per day, but they might have only like one post every 2 days, right? So that is something we need to keep an eye on. Number of video views, that's another thing. If we are really focusing on videos, we need to see how many people actually viewed our videos. And then obviously, out of this, let's say, something that we need to do manually when it comes to preparing this report, because at the end of the day, we need to present this report to someone, whether the business owner, whether the manager, whether for our team, if we are the business owner, we need to share those information so that we come up with a conclusion that will tell us what is our top performing posts. Because based on that, again, we'll be able to move forward and we'll be able to improve when it comes to creating content and our content calendar. So some other metrics as well that we usually rely on, which are not directly, let's say, shown on the page as in terms of direct metrics, which are the number of leads generated. So that's another thing that I need to track outside the platform, of course. So that is something I'm going to track on my landing page, on my website, anywhere else where I'm trying to redirect people. So that is one thing, the number of conversions. So how many conversions did I got? And by conversion, we can mean anything. So it all depends on your business. What is a conversion for you? It could be someone registering to your newsletter. It could be someone downloading a report. It could be someone buying on your website, right? So that is another thing you need to track. Total generated or total revenue generated. And again, I mean, this is a number that's being calculated out of the leads, out of their conversion to understand the value as well. And that is something that you want to actually compare, because even if you're generating revenues, maybe on a specific month, you're generating, let's say, less revenue than any other month. So you need to dig deeper to understand what happened. What were the products that you were, let's say, that you were sharing with people and publishing, all right? Total spent, which is when we're talking regarding ads, you need to see that for this number that you spent this month, how much did you got in terms of impression, engagement, reach, results, leads, and conversions. And obviously the share of voice. So you need to see what is your market share among the competition. So that's another metric that we can measure as well. Social sentiment, which is something very important, especially when it comes to customer service. So you need to see that, I mean, what people are saying the most about your business. Are they having positive feedback or negative feedback? So you always need to have like a tracking sheets so that you fill out in this tracking sheet. Today, let's say we had like 20 comments, 10 out of them said, I mean, they're having a great experience with us, right? So you need to look at that so that you compare month on month. How's the feedback of people? Is it improving, or is it, let's say, I mean, is it affecting the business? All right. So before I move forward, does anyone have a question, a specific question about anything that we just shared? I still have a lot of information to share with you guys, but does anyone have a real quick question? All right, Eddie.
Hello.
Yes, Aslam.
Yeah, can you just explain the number of leads generated?
All right. So you're asking how do we explain the number of lead generation? All right. So in terms of lead, so just to tell you what I was saying about these metrics over here on this slide, most of them, Hussam, they are usually tracked outside the platform. What do I mean by that? Is that most of the time, if you want to get more leads, you need to have a landing page or a website, right? So, and by saying that, it means that you're sharing a specific link in your posts or in your ads, and you want to redirect people outside the platform, outside Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever is the channel, so that they go to your landing page and they fill the form or they submit the whatever you have on this page. So, and this is the number that you need to track, and you will be able to track how many of these people that registered actually came from Facebook. So that's a feature, or that's an option that you can look at with Google Analytics. All right. Did I answer you, Hassan?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
All right. You're most welcome. All right. So now let's talk. Yeah. So Adib, regarding the share of voice, there is a formula on the share of voice. I can share it at the end. At the end of the session. All right. So just in terms of share of voice, just to tell you, it's usually the number of mentions that you have versus the mentions that your competition have. All right. times 100, because it's a rate. So by the end of the session, let me just look for the right formula, because what I know is your mentions versus the mention of your competitors. And that's going to be, I mean, that's going to show you your market share versus someone that you're comparing to. Let me just real quick, by the end of the session, look for the formula for you, and then I'll share it over here. All right. Now, when it comes to the funnel, so I mean, when we're talking about those different metrics that we're saying, I mean, obviously, yes, maybe most of us are looking at these different metrics when we're creating our let's say our reports, right? But we need to think of this funnel, which will make it very easy if we map them out to our goals. So let's say if my goal is to create, I mean, if I'm in e-commerce and I want to sell more, I need to focus on the conversion metrics, right? If I'm trying to still create awareness, I need to focus on, or I need at least to identify what are the awareness metrics on social media. So we identify them by 3 different categories, which is part of this funnel. So we start by the metrics that has to do with awareness more, first of all. Then we have engagement, because obviously after that we create awareness, people are going to start engaging with us on social. And then in the last part, they might convert into leads, into actual buyers. So it depends on what we're trying to analyze. So let's start one by one, and I have few formulas to share with you, which is something that you need to actually build within your report. So when it comes to awareness metrics, obviously awareness, it's usually, let's say, it's usually tracked by the number of mentions, shares, links, and impressions. So all of these are actually driving awareness. So again, why I'm saying that, because when your post is being mentioned a lot, it means that your awareness is expanding, because other people are seeing it. That's one. When people are sharing your post, you're getting an extra awareness. When people are, let's say, when you have more impressions on your post, it means that it's appearing more to people. You are increasing our awareness. You are affecting the awareness. In terms of awareness, so I mean, again, these are the simple metrics to look at in your report. That's when it comes to awareness. When it comes to audience growth rate, which is another metric under awareness, so that's another, let's say, thing that we look at when it comes to comparing month on month. We need to understand, are we growing in terms of audience? Is my fan base actually growing, and what's my growth rate? So I need to calculate that. So usually it's the new followers that we got during a specific period that you're trying to analyze. So let's say from the beginning of the month till the end of the month, what was the number of new followers that I got divided by my total audience, or my total number of followers, times 100, because obviously that's a percentage rate. So that's how we're calculating our growth rate percentage. All right. Now, when it comes to another metric, which is part of awareness, which is the reach. So the reach is the actual number of people that I'm reaching, and that's why, right? So it's the post reach. So how many people my posts are actually reaching? So that's another thing that we need to look at, and we can see it easily on Facebook. And I'm going to show you, I mean, how to export these reports and how to look at them. So another thing which is part of reach and part of our post is an amazing feature on Facebook, where we can see when our audiences are online. So I can look at the different, on a timeline, when my actual audience or fans are online on Facebook, right? And why I'm saying this is very important, because that will affect your scheduling timing. So when it comes to scheduling your post, you need to see when usually your fans or audience are online, because this is the time where you have to post your content. Because otherwise, if you post it in a different timing, there's a huge chance that they're never going to see it, right? Even if they're following you, that doesn't mean that they're going to see your content. All right. Now, when it comes to engagement metrics, so we have different metrics that we have to look at when it comes to engagement, and that we follow most of the time, because in my opinion, when it comes to social, these are the most important metrics, and these are the most important. I mean, these are the metrics that we usually look at when it comes to working with an influencer, for example. So if I want to decide to work with an influencer, I don't want to look at his audience size. I don't care about his audience size, because maybe he has like 500,000 follower, but barely no one is engaging with him, right? So I need to look at the engagement rate, and that's very important. So how do you see time on Facebook? So Sania, that's something that we're going to explore next. All right. So I'm going to show you on the platform how we can actually see that. So when it comes to engagement rate, again, this is the total number of engagement that I'm getting on my page or my posts, which are the total number of likes, comments, and shares on a specific post, divided by the total number of followers that I have, obviously times 100. So that's the average engagement rate that I need to calculate. And I need to follow on this number month on month, because that's a very important metric that I need to focus on month, and I need to challenge my business or challenge myself to try to increase that number. And usually, how can I do that? I mean, if I'm having, let's say, a low engagement rate, this is when I need to reassess my content and start creating engaging content. So I need to start creating content that people might actually care about and are willing to engage with, to like it, to comment, to share it with their friends, so that obviously I can increase this rate. Amplification rate. So what is the amplification rate? So it is the ratio of shares per post to the number of overall followers. So it's how much my post is being shared versus how many people do I have. So, and why we call it, why we call it an amplification? Because it's a way to actually amplify my reach. So it's a way to actually amplify my growth on social. So when we usually say we want to amplify, let's say, our strategy, our presence on social, it means that we want to make sure that people are actually sharing, because the more they share, the more we're going to get this growth, the more we're going to get this exposure. So usually it is the number of post shares, how much people are actually shared our post, divided by the total number of followers times 100. So that's the rate. So, and over here, I'm just trying to share like a quick snapshot on some of the tools that you can actually use. Over here, I'm trying to show you guys a screenshot on a tool called Later. So Later is one of those tools that you can use to schedule your content. But another feature that Later can give you is the analytical part. It's the performance analysis, where you can actually analyze your different type of post or different posts on the page. And it can show you, let's say, the engagement rate directly without even calculating it. It can show you the number of likes, comments, impressions. And you can, the nice thing about such tools is that you can filter out. You can filter out based on the highest or the most engaged content, or the most liked content, or the most commented content, right? But Later has been lagging lately, right? So what do you mean by lagging, Dunya? I actually don't.
Sorry, Avid. Yeah, I just wanted to say that with Later recently, the link between the app and your Instagram page has been off, so it keeps on missing the connection, and it keeps giving a message saying log in back into Instagram, and then you try to log in, and then it just gives you an error.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
didn't.
I've been having that for the past week, so I don't know
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
going on, to be honest.
To be honest, I haven't used Later for more than like 3-4 weeks now. So maybe that could be an update on Instagram that's actually affecting the performance of Later.
Yeah,
That
maybe,
could be one
because
of the reasons.
even if I use it, like even if I log in on my laptop instead of on my phone, it gives that message saying there's some connective issues between Instagram
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Later itself.
I'm sure it's either there's a bug, or Instagram are doing like a major update, which is why it's actually lagging. So there are many apps like Hootsuite and exactly, Hussam. There are many apps like Hootsuite and many others that can actually provide you guys with the analytical part. Most of the time, just to tell you, I actually rely on the platform itself. So I rely on Facebook to give me those numbers. I rely on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and all of these channels. But sometimes, I mean, if we're using one of these scheduling tools to schedule our content, it's good at the same time to use their analytical tool so that at the same time we're able to see what do they have to offer for us. But that is something we can always explore with Facebook Insights and many other tools. So again, when it comes to engagement, so as I was saying, there's a lot of metrics. One of them is called virality rate. So what is the virality? So most of the time we hear about our content is going viral, right? Or I want to create a content that can go viral. So, but the virality is something that we can actually measure. So usually it is the number of shares that you're getting divided by the number of impressions that your post got. And just to define it, what is impressions? Do you guys know what is an impression? So what's an impression anyway? What do you think?
Impression is the view.
So it's not exactly the view, and Hussam is saying engagement in all kinds. It's not engagement. I'm going to tell you guys what it is, but I'm just trying to see if anyone would like to answer that. It's the amount of time the post has been clicked on. You're pretty much close, Dunya. It's not the amount of the post that's been clicked on. It's the amount of times the post have been delivered, all right, have appeared online. So exactly the number of times it was it appeared on the screen. Absolutely, Maria. So Maria is saying it's the number of times it appeared on a screen. And an impression can be for anything. It can be for the page, it can be for a post, it can be for your website, for your ad, for your email, it can be for anything. So the number of impressions is the number of time something appeared on your screen, whether it's a post, page, or just anything else, all right? It's not the number of clicks, it's not the number of people, it's not the number of views, it's the number of time it appeared. It had an appearance on the screen, within the pixels of your screen, all right? So I think it's reach, but for Twitter, no, it's not reach, Hussam. So the reach is the number of people, right? So, and always you're going to see that the number of impression is always higher than the number of reach. And why is that? Again, because the number of reach is the number of people. And most of the time, there's a lot of people that see your ad or your post more than one time. So more than one time, it means that they got more impressions. And that's why no matter what ad you're looking at or any post, you're going to always see that the number of impressions is always going to be more than the number of reach. And these are two different metrics anyway. It's not the same. All right. So over here, we're saying how to calculate this virality rate. It's the number of shares that this post got, right? Divided by the number of impressions, because obviously the number of impressions is going to be way much higher than the number of shares anyway, times 100. So that's the virality rate, how much this post is actually going viral. And that is something you need to keep on challenging yourself to try to increase. So I think it's reach. Okay, all right. So
yeah.
I'm
going to ask regarding the virality. Isn't it also how many times it does increase the reach? Because when I engage on a post that I saw on my news feed, and a friend of mine got to see it because of my engagement, whether I liked, I commented, or I shared, it increased the virality of this post because that other person may not be following that page that was communicating and saw it thanks to my engagement.
100%, Adib. If you look at the formula, and I mean, that's why we have the metric, which is impressions, that plays a role in the formula. Because like you're saying, let's say you are sharing something now, but it's getting more and more delivered to your friends. What does that mean? It means that they're getting impressions, right? So it means that they are getting more impressions on that. So it's appearing on other screens, on other profiles. So that's why it is part of the formula, the number of impressions. That's absolutely correct. All right, and I mean, if you look at this example over here, I'm putting a very straightforward example. A post that gets 17,000 likes may only get like 0.1, for example, virality, while another post that receives 10,000 likes gets 9.9% virality, right? So which in other terms, that was a better post. So we don't have to look always at the number of likes. That's the thing. So we need to look at, let's say, how much or how many people it actually reached at the same time, or how many times it actually appeared. Appeared, it means that it went viral. So it actually appeared and it was shared even more, all right? When it comes to conversion metrics, so that's the third part that we were talking about. So what are, let's say, the things that we wanna look for? So we have something called social media conversion rate. So what is the social media conversion rate? It's the conversion that you are trying to track from your social channels versus versus all other conversions that happened for your website. So let's give an example. Let's say I have a landing page where I'm trying to get more leads, all right? So if I want to calculate my social media conversion rate, I need to track and I need to define how many conversions I was able to get out of this post on Facebook, for example, on my landing page versus the total number of conversions that happened on that landing page. So in this case, I'll be able to understand the conversion rate that's coming from social. And that is something obviously that I need to keep on improving, because I always want to increase this conversion rate because because I'm able to do that, because it will all go back to the content, what I'm telling people, what I'm showing them, the creative itself, all right? And then another one, which is CTR, the click-through rate. Does anyone know what is the click-through rate, guys? And what does it represent anyway? What do you think? CTR is basically how many times your post got clicked after being seen. 100% Hussam. So just like Hussam saying, guys, the CTR is basically how many times your post got clicked on after being seen. And I would add something, which is usually it's, instead of saying that it was seen, it is usually, it's the number of time it got clicked on versus how many times it appeared, because it's the number of clicks versus impressions. And we just defined what is an impression. Usually an impression is when your ad appeared on a screen, but that doesn't mean that I saw the ad. Maybe I didn't look at it. Maybe I didn't see it, right? So it was not viewed maybe in such a case, but it is the number of time it appeared on a screen, it got an impression versus how many times people actually clicked on it when it appeared in their screen. So it shows relevancy. It shows you guys the relevancy and how much relevant we felt that this post is for us, right? It will all depend on maybe the colors we're using, the nice design, the attractive design that we're using, the bold colors, and all these kind of things. All right. Okay. So now let's jump into Facebook. I mean, before we do that, I have like a few more things to share with you. And we're going to see anyway on Facebook Insights how we can actually, let's say, export reports. Where can we see when people are actually online on our page so that we post during this time. So we have different metrics that define a channel to another. Same goes for LinkedIn, which we're going to see the different metrics that we can look at in LinkedIn. They're not that, I mean, on Facebook, we're gonna find way much more metrics than on LinkedIn. But that's the thing. Each platform has its own, let's say, type of metrics that they are tracking. Same goes for Twitter, same goes for Instagram, and all the rest. So obviously, if you're trying to, to build better reports, so it's always good to look at the whole scope. When I'm saying the whole scope, it means that if I want to track my audience on Facebook Insight, I shouldn't be looking only on Facebook. I need to go back always to Google Analytics to understand how many of these visitors on my Facebook channel did actually convert and went back to my website. And Google Analytics is the only place that's going to tell me that. All right. So do you have a chance to look for a new insight for Instagram on Business Suite? Yes, Adib, to be honest, I did. I mean, it's already switched on our phones. And just to tell you guys what Adib is talking about now, they recently, like that's super recent, like 2 weeks ago, they have launched and they have released something called Facebook Business Suite. So Facebook Business Manager is somehow now called Business Suite, which is a place where you can access your Facebook and your Instagram account all at once. And now a good thing for businesses on Instagram, you're able now to schedule your Instagram posts from Facebook Business Suite, because back in the days, we used to rely on third-party tools like Later, like OnlyPult, like Hootsuite, and many others to schedule content on Instagram. Now you're able to do it within one platform. And I mean, yes, I looked at the insights, Adib. They don't look much different than before, right? So if we used to look at the insight on Instagram, the mobile app, from the app, they're still almost the same. They've added few things, but now at least you're able to see them in one tool. And the nice thing about it now is that you can compare. You can compare your Facebook results with your Instagram results. And that's what they're trying to improve. I'm sure they're going to release more and more features because now they have unified everything under one platform. So can you talk more about UTM parameters and how to set them exactly? Yes, Shilpa. So we can do that. We can do that in like a couple of minutes at the end. But before we jump onto Facebook, I just have like a link for a social media report template that I want to share with you guys, which is very interesting for you to actually use. And why I'm sharing it, I'm sure that you already have maybe templates, you already have your own workflow. But what I found interesting about this template is that at the level of every single platform, you're going to find different tabs inside that sheet. You're going to, I mean, at the level of every single channel as well, again, you're going to see different metrics that are special or that are dedicated for that channel. So you're going to see different metrics that we usually look for when it comes to YouTube, other than Facebook, other than LinkedIn. So each one of these channels have its own metrics. And that's what I was trying to say. All right, so let's jump real quick on Facebook now. And I mean, we only want to look at two things. I don't want to take much of your time. We only want to look at two things, and then let's look at UTM parameters, because this is something super important that we covered or we spoke about a lot of time during our session, if you remember. I mean, again, what I'm trying to understand right now is how much traffic am I getting from this specific post? In order to do that, I need to work on my UTM parameters. So we're going to explain that for the most of you guys that don't know about it. Don't worry about that. So now let's jump into Facebook Insights. First of all, you're going to see like an overview about everything that's happening on your page, from people joining, people being added as a new follower, people engaging. But just to tell you that everything that you're seeing over here, the menu on the right, again, each one of them is like a quick overview. In order for you to get a better insight for what's happening on your page, and especially in order to compare, you'll have to export your data from here. And I'll tell you why, because when I'm seeing, let's say, data over here, I cannot define the exact dates. I'll have to go with what they're giving me, whether I want to test things that happened yesterday, today, in the last day, or the last 28 days. But what if I want to try to understand what happened during a specific time frame, because I was running maybe a campaign? This is where I need to export my data. So when I click on export my data, I'm going to see that I have 3 different types of reports that Facebook is going to share with me. So first of all, I have my page data, which are all the metrics related to my fan base, fan growth, the page impressions, the page views, and all these kind of data. So I can download it in an Excel sheet And the nice thing that I can always select a specific time frame that suits my business, depending on what I'm trying to analyze over here. That is one thing. Another thing, which is the post data, and this is everything that I'll be able to understand and to compare between my different posting and my different pieces of content that I have shared throughout this month, for example. So, and why Excel? Because I'll be able to filter out, I'll be able to add maybe some graphs on top. Maybe I want to create more graphs and more charts, more, let's say, bars and tables in order to present them to the management, in order for me to keep on tracking. And that is super important to have them in an Excel sheet. And again, I'll always be able to select my date range. And third, which you have the video data. I mean, just to tell you, when it comes to post data, you're going to find the videos there. So you're going to find the videos in post data. And why is that? Because a video is a post at the same time on Facebook, but they have decided to create another type of report, which is video data, because in video data, they show you more metrics than in the post data. What do I mean by that? Because videos usually have specific metrics for them, which is the watch time rate. So you need to understand not only how many views this video got, you need to look at, on average, how much of the length of the video that, actually people watched, right? So you need to see that, are they watching half of the video on average? Are they only watching, let's say, like the first 3 seconds? Are they completing the video? So these are the kind of data that you're going to find in video data. Another thing that I want to show you, which is under posts. So if you go under posts, this is where you're going to find some interesting stuff, which you're going to see when your fans are online. And this is one of the most important metrics when it comes to Facebook, because this is when you'll be able to understand when my fans are live online. And this is actually the time where I need to be publishing my content, right? So over here, you'll be able to see on which days they are online, or on which days do you have the highest number. But just to tell you, if you look at my number at the moment, that is nothing but normal. And that's going to be your numbers as well. I'm not talking about the numbers. I'm talking about the differences in those numbers. Because you might notice that they're almost the same, right? And so most of the time, I wouldn't look at the difference between the days. I would look at the difference between the time frame, on the timeline. So when are actually people online? But just to tell you as a quick note, these are in Pacific time zones. So so these are not, let's say, in UAE, let's say, time format. So this is Pacific time zone. So you obviously need to calculate the difference. I think it's 7 or 8 hours behind us, I guess. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to say. You need to look at these numbers or these time frames as in Pacific time zone. So you always have to do the math for your own, let's say time zone, whether you're in Saudi, Emirates, Lebanon, Jordan, where you are. All right. So that's regarding Facebook. One last thing, so it doesn't matter to look at the best publishing times if we'll be promoting the content. That's a very good question, Adib. So guys, Adib is asking, do we actually want to look at, let's say, when people are online, if we're actually, let's say, boosting our content or promoting it? So I would tell you yes, when you're thinking of your organic content. When you have a promoted post, I don't want you to look at that. It doesn't matter, just like you're saying. But if you have, and I'm sure you will, if you have organic content that you want to publish on the page, obviously you need to publish it when your audience is online. Because if you're doing that at another time, obviously you're not gonna be able to maximize the reach and the exposure for that specific post. All right. So one quick thing when it comes to UTM Builder, and I'm going to explain what is this. So for people who doesn't know about them, so I'll share the link with you. So UTM Builder. So first of all, just to explain what is UTM Builder. So guys, this is a tool that is offered by Google Analytics. And this tool usually helps you track your traffic on your website that's coming from external sources. So let's say, and again, Facebook is an external source regarding my website, Twitter the same, LinkedIn the same, right? So when it comes to tracking your external sources, you need to understand from where are you getting those sources. So just to give you an example, let's say right now we're saying, I'm getting traffic from Facebook. Will Google Analytics be able to understand from where am I getting this traffic? Yes, of course. So Google will be able to see that if you're getting traffic from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, so they can identify that. But what they cannot do is they cannot tell you from which post did you get this traffic. So let's say right now, I'm having a specific post where I'm adding a specific link into that post, or let's say I'm running a campaign. Imagine that you're running a campaign and you're getting a lot of leads from that campaign. All what you can see in Google Analytics is that you got traffic from Facebook. Are you able to say that this traffic came from this campaign? You can't. You can't unless you create a trackable URL. And that is, I mean, that's why we call it a campaign URL builder. All right. So from here, I'm just gonna, let's say I'm just gonna add my website now. All right. So that is my website. Let's say I'm taking people to my frames section, to my frames category. Then I need to define what is my campaign source. So from where am I getting this traffic? Am I getting it from a post on Facebook? So if yes, maybe I should say maybe Facebook post. All right. Then what is the campaign medium? So how am I getting this traffic to my website? So is it a link? Is it is it a link in the bio, or is it a link inside the post? So maybe over here, I might say it's a post, or I can simply erase it from here and I can put it over here that it's a post, right? Then I need to name my campaign. So, but don't be confused. We're not only talking about a paid campaign. So over here, it is called a campaign, but maybe it's like an organic post on my page, which I need to track the traffic from it. So I can simply create the name of the post. So my campaign name would be the main highlighted, let's say, a product that I'm trying to highlight in this post on Facebook. So over here, I could say, let's say, wall decor frames post. Maybe I might put the date of that post so that when I see it in Google Analytics, I would understand where it is, right? So let's say, I don't know, anyway, 01. And then obviously over here, I'm having the link. So just to tell you, for some of you who's thinking, where should I be using this link? So now I need to use this link on that post. So this is exactly the URL where I'm going to be taking people. All right. So, and I mean, again, I've shared with you the link, guys, regarding Campaign URL Builder. And that is something super important for you to start using, because this is how you'll be able to track what performance did you got out of this specific post and the other post and all these kind of things. So let's take this one last question before we wrap up. So can you put more than one source in the campaign source? For example, you shared the same post on Facebook and Twitter. Very good question, Hussam. So when you're sharing it on Facebook and Twitter, so look at the link over here. So you just copy this and you use it on Facebook, then you change from here. You just put Twitter, and now your link have changed. Now it has Twitter inside the link, if you can see it. So now you take this link and you put it on Twitter. And now on Facebook, you'll be able to see the differences. All right. Okay. So guys, we just shared with you a survey regarding this meetup. So we would really love to hear your feedback regarding this meetup. How was it? And I mean, just one last thing that I want to share with you guys, which is regarding our, the community of AstroLabs. I don't know if you guys actually know about AstroLabs. So AstroLabs is a co-working space, and we have an academy. We have an academy where we have a lot of courses. One of them is our digital marketing course, which we run on a monthly basis. So obviously, if you want to know more about that, what I can do right now, I'm going to share the link for our academy with you so that you can have an idea as well regarding what are our offerings, what are the courses that we have upcoming. And I mean, obviously, you can reach out to anyone at AstroLabs to get more information about that. All right. Thank you, Sania. So Adib, regarding the share of voice, just a second. I haven't forgot about you. Let me just pull it real quick from here. Just give me like a few seconds. Because I was looking at it today, but I haven't had the chance to save it.
Just 1 second, Abid. I'll just take to address everyone. Thank you so much for attending the meetup, guys. It was a pleasure having you. I sincerely request if you can fill up this feedback form before you drop off to really help us capture feedback from your experience of the session, and that we can improve the meetups going forward. And once you drop in your details here, we can also reach out to you with more information about our courses. Also share the video session recording from the meetup today. So please fill it up before you drop off, and we hope to see you for many more meetups ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishab. All right, so regarding the share of voice, just a second. All right. All right, so usually it's your brand mentions